That's how we own it.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
And it's your boy, Mysonne, the general.
And we are your host of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and
politics meet.
Another dope episode coming up.
Yes, man, we got some surprises for y'all. Happy Women's Month.
It's Women's History Month, and
It's Women's Month.
And you don't have to say it every week. You said it every week. Of Women's History.
It's Women's Month.
That's
what I'm saying.
I appreciate it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even think it should be like Women's Month. Just like the argument about Black History Month, like it's all the time. So when it is Women's Month, I want to say it every week.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I was just trying to be funny. But no, I mean, I still think though that you have to have. You know, it's like people. I said this with something else that we won't get into today because it'll take too long to explain it, but. People like to hear their name. You know, the reason why when pastors are in church and when they're preaching, they say, oh, you know, my son, the word says such and such, is because one, it helps to keep people engaged, right? So it helps the congregation to stay engaged. And if you think somebody's either falling asleep or, you know, or fooling around too much, you call their name and it kind of straightens them up. So I think when you say you have Black History Month, Women's History Month, it's that. It gives people the opportunity to celebrate their heritage and to show out, show off, and, you know, and really make sure that people focus in. Obviously, Black History Month is too short, but nonetheless, it exists and we use it and then do other things at the same time.
I definitely agree with that. I was just saying that that's the argument that people give. It shouldn't be. And I think, I think what you said is that's why they have holidays. Right? This is celebratory. It's like your birthday. You was born, it shouldn't be
one day.
Day. But at the end of the day, it just signifies that this is the day you were born. And it gives you a sense of people focusing on you for that time. So, yes, the focus. We want to be focused.
During this good old Women's History Month. So, anyway, there's several stories in the news that, when we choose our stories, it's funny because it's kind of like we think like, oh, yeah, this is something people are talking about that we actually care about, because we don't ever come up here with news stories about things. I mean, we could talk about everything because there's always something, but usually it's things that we are either concerned about or think is funny. So, speaking of thinking it's funny, have you seen all the memes about Trump being arrested? Hilarious. But what's not hilarious
is that they ain't arrested. I wanted to really.
No, but see, it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that.
Don't you want to see Trump like? I want the purple.
It's so much deeper than that.
What?
And he's so good at what he does. So good. So he's the one that leaked, that there was going to be an indictment. Because obviously, you kind of know when when you done something and the people are starting to circle the wagons.
Come help me.
Especially if they're interviewing certain people, folks will find a way to let you know, like, hey, they called me into a grand jury hearing. Attorneys. It is the former president of the United States, so it's not like Jimmy that they be working on the indictment in the back room and then all of a sudden they pick you up and that's it. It's not like that. I mean, this is the former president. So he knows that something is happening. And what he does, because he is a master manipulator of the news, of the media, he is a master manipulator. And he's a storyteller, he's a manipulator, and he knows how to capture the attention of his base to get them riled up. And then some of us who are not in his base, but people who he can also put doubt in your mind. So he's already out there like, oh my God, they're going to arrest me for nothing. They have nothing. Basically trying to resurge, that's not the word I'm looking for, but he would like to start up an insurrection again. He wants to get people excited, upset, and and that's what they're doing. I mean, you can see it's so clear because they never set a day for when they were going to arrest him. But he came out and leaked it. Exactly.
He said, Tuesday I'm going to be arrested. Don't let it happen. So
right, or protest in the street.
Yeah, so what happens is he's getting them to be in front of it.
Yeah.
He's going to get the people to protest against it, then it makes people second guess it.
Right.
You know, maybe we shouldn't even do it. It's gonna cause too much confusion. People are, you know, so he's a master
Manipulator. That's it.
That's what he does. He's good at promotion.
Very good.
He knows how to market everything.
Well, speaking of people who were not so, their promotional marketing didn't work, which the 6ix9ine this week, you saw that he.
No, it worked.
No, it didn't work.
It did.
No, because he said he was untouchable, that nobody was ever going to do anything to him.
No. 6ix9ine was marketing for an ass whooping. He was campaigning for an ass whooping. Like, if you campaign for something long enough, eventually get, like, there's no way, like, history has taught you. Like, you keep talking and you keep asking for something, they gonna give you what you want. Nobody's untouchable.
That's right.
Everybody can be touched. So what happened to 6ix9ine is the chicken's coming home to roost. You know, you done put out so much bad energy, bad karma. You done said shit, and this is you lucky. You know what I'm saying, that this was a dude that just wanted to put his hands on you.
But I saw somebody in the comment section say that it might have been set up.
But they say that about everything. Like, I don't care. Everything
I don't really know, so I'm going with the conspiracy.
My thing is, everything that's on it's fake. Oh, that wasn't really happening.
That's true.
Everything that happens, it's fake, it's a setup. You can't tell. They ain't really doing that. They got artificial, everything is a conspiracy these days.
Yeah.
Somebody whipped 6ix9ine's ass, man. He was talking tough in the gym. Somebody whipped his ass.
Well, they say he got jumped, which, you know.
I mean, I don't know if it's jumped.
Well, I saw somebody else kicking. So.
Okay, but I don't think it was. I think somebody got into the thing, but the guy whipped 6ix9ine's ass by himself because he was talking, and then somebody out of clear blue that just figured this the same dude that been talking shit and done so much sucker shit. Let me get a kick in.
So you think that's what happened?
I mean, from
what I know,
I don't know. I just personally don't see that man. The way that he tossed that man around like a dog, baby, it don't look like nobody jumped him. He didn't look like he needed to jump. But maybe, listen, I don't want nobody to be harmed. But I don't want nobody to do the things that get them harmed either. Right? I like I said all the time, when you keep disrespect on the table, then violence is on the table. If you don't take disrespect off the table, then you leave violence on the table. And that man has been campaigning for ass whooping for the last 4 years, man. Maybe 5. And somebody finally got him. He won the lottery, the ass whooping lottery. And it's probably more to come. There's people that still want to catch 6ix9ine. It's some people that actually have real problems with him that want to catch him. So this is.
But would you say that you feel like people should not do that? Like they should not catch him.
What I would say is this: I wouldn't catch him, because I don't see I don't see how it benefits me. But I understand that we live in a world where there are people that will catch it. So it's just like right or wrong.
But you have said that there's one particular person in this world that when you don't say their name, that when you see them, no matter what,
just bail me out. Yeah, because we gonna have because there's levels of disrespect when you talk out your mouth and you say things and we face to face. You gotta be able to fight. You gotta be able to fight. So whatever comes with it, you can press charges with it. I'm willing to deal with that because you gotta be. You've crossed lines and you've done shit that you have to be able to fight at this time. And I think for a lot of people, 6ix9ine has done it. It's a lot of y'all that need to be very careful. The internet trolls. There's a possibility that somebody feels as strongly as that man felt, and they're gonna put their hands on you. So if you think that you just get some views and a couple dollars worth of views, I hope the views is worth that ass whooping that's coming with it. Because it's ass whooping, and you better hope that you ain't fucking with Pookie and them that got ratchets. Because they might not be thinking. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. We have to be very careful in this day and age. Like, this trolling shit has gone too far. Y'all think that it's humorous. You think you talk about people, you disrespect, you do all this shit, and you put it into the universe so where millions of people can hear and see, and you think it's okay. It's not okay. Everybody is not laughing at it. It's not a joke. It's not funny. It's not just the internet for some people. Some people gonna put their hands on you. It's not gonna end up well.
I mean, you know what? I unfortunately I don't have anything. I would say this. I've listened to some of the stuff that 6ix9ine said because I saw you talking about it so much that it made me be like, what in the world? Why won't you just leave this alone? And then when I went and I looked up some of the disrespectful things he was saying, it was like really not just him against people, but he was disrespecting our community, disrespecting Black women, he was really, really, and he would say, I'm a troll, and I'm trying to understand, I guess this is my perspective. I'm really trying to understand who created that and what does it mean. Like, to be a troll, which means that you get to harass people.
But that's
and
what
we
people
see
do.
this week what happened with Tasha K. Like, now she wants to apologize, but, and there may have been legal advice that said don't apologize before the appeal because, it would make her look like she's admitting to guilt. But now she has the opportunity to do that. But that's not all that happened. During the time between when she was found guilty and given her sentence or her restitution charges, and then now this appeal, she has said still some very nasty things like to Cardi, like, I ain't got the check, I ain't got the money, like trying to basically taunt her and make fun of the situation. So it's like when you say, okay, now we sorry, but I don't know. It's a hard conversation to have because we know there's so much violence and so much just destruction that's happening in our communities. And also when I think about some of the Black women that have literally lied on me or have allowed their platforms to be used to exploit untrue narratives about me. I ain't talking about negative stuff. You could say negative things, but like lies, like they're putting things out there and trying to turn people to believe a certain thing or have a certain perspective on my life that is not true. I have literally considered more than one time suing people, and I'm not done yet in my mind. I've had several conversations with attorneys, and there's one person in particular that my attorneys think they can beat, right? They believe like this person has stepped over the line. But you do feel like in the spirit of like us in a community, do I want to be suing Black women? I remember that Shaun King went through the same thing where this young woman was literally lying on him on a regular basis. And when he got ready to, I think he did send cease and desist and they may have began proceedings. Everybody was like, how can he sue a Black woman? But at what point?
So my thing is this. So what is the other recourse that you have, right?
I
You're
mean,
not
a
gonna
lot
put
of
your
people say
hands
just
on
let it go.
No, but why? Right? Why should I allow you to humiliate me, defame me, discredit me for your gain? I can't put my hands on you because we saying we don't want to be violent. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So where's my exactly? So where's my recourse? So I have to play the game y'all play. Now we're going to do the civilians. As civilians, you say something negatively that negatively affects my health, my mind state, and my career. Then I have the ability to sue you. And that's what it is. That's the only way you can protect yourself, right? So that's it's nothing else. Like what are we supposed to do? Y'all want us not to? Oh, we're not supposed to fight you. Nobody wants to deal with violence. Oh, don't sue a Black woman. Why would a Black woman want to defame a Black man or a Black woman? Why would a Black woman want to use her voice and quote unquote troll and try to discredit and harm somebody? These people got kids, they got family members. You can't just sit up on no internet and say stuff to the kid. I just seen Jess Hilarious got her show with her and her baby father and the kid. And the little kid punched somebody in the face for calling his mother ugly. So like these are real things. Like you publicly saying shit to my kid. My kids got to deal with these things. So you understand? So how do we get a recourse? So at the end of the day, it has to make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should. I think that some people do need to. I mean, and I saw a number of.
But I really think some people need ass whooping. I'm still for that. Ass whooping ain't off the table. I'm not. Listen to me. I'm not always saved. I hope y'all understand. I don't want nobody to kill each other. I don't want nobody to kill each other, stab, shoot. But I think every now and then, especially with two men, when a man decides that he's going to utilize his voice to disrespect a man knowingly, willingly, and you don't lead with respect, you should be prepared to engage in fisticuffs with that man.
Well, here's the thing.
Or take an ass whooping.
Well, here's the thing.
Because that's what comes with it.
But, I don't know the history with this particular man, but that man may or may not have even had direct issues with him. You cannot, that I do not believe is okay. That you are somebody who's sitting here in this room that hears a person doing or sees somebody doing something over there to somebody else, and then you decide, oh, I'm gonna be the one to give the ass. That I don't think is
but that's not realistic, right? Because you got the beehive. If you go out there and you talk about Beyonce,
but we're not talking about that.
What do you mean?
We're not talking about that.
What do you mean
I'm speaking of one specific thing.
I'm speaking of specific
I'm not talking about whether or not, because even you have used your platform to challenge 6ix9ine and the whole issue of what he did and the snitching and the this and that. You've done all of that. And there have been a number of other people who have done the same and some who support him. That's fine. I'm talking about physical violence.
What I'm trying to tell
against another human being.
All right, and I hear what you're saying. But what I'm trying to tell you is Nipsey Hussle is just not a regular person. Right? He has the word fan stands for fanatic. It means that some people love him to a level that is not just, oh, he's a rapper, he's cool.
But I'm not trying to say.
So listen to what I'm trying to explain to you.
Okay.
You got to take that into accountability.
I'm not saying that I don't understand that it can happen.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to say.
I'm saying I don't agree.
But it's not
that you should put yourself in jail because you can go to jail.
But they don't care.
Nah, some people do care.
But not the person that did it. You think that the person that did it?
Some people do care.
No.
I'm sure this guy does not want to be back in jail. And like you always say, you always say this, that at the time when you're doing the thing, it seems right because you upset, you feel whatever. But when you sitting in prison and it's 2 years later, the shit that happened, it ain't that important.
But I'm trying to tell you, he might have made it conscious. This is what I always tell people, right? Like I believe, especially when you do senseless crimes and all of these things, like you run around and you kill somebody and you're doing 25 years. But so, like I said, sometimes somebody believe. I seen Rich Dollars. He posted, nobody does nothing to Zimmerman, but they jump 6ix9ine. And I'm saying everybody's karma comes at a different time. We don't know what's gonna happen to Zimmerman. We didn't know when that was gonna happen to 6ix9ine. We don't know if that's it. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying somebody probably definitely need to whip George Zimmerman ass. He should have been got his ass whipped. But what I'm trying to tell you is, this was the time for that man's karma. And some people will issue the karma. You don't know who God sent to issue that karma. You don't know. It's people that love you, Tamika, and people disrespect you, and somebody see the person that disrespect you. You can't tell how that person's going to respond.
I did not say that you can't tell them.
But that's a reality.
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is I just want the record to be clear that I hear what you're saying, but I still know that it's not, you do not have the right to go. Well, you have the right to do whatever you want, but you are going to.
We live in real life.
All I'm saying is that
people have been doing this from the beginning of times. It's like
you're gonna suffer the consequences.
Yeah,
and so as long as people are prepared for their consequences, then that's what it is.
It's people going and die for their country, right? It's one president said you got to go to the army.
Yeah, but
no. Just think about it in realistic. The man signs up for the army because they believe in what the man says. Right. I believe that I'm gonna fight for this country. They go out there and risk their life every day for some shit that they ain't got nothing to do with.
Right.
You personally have nothing to do with what's going on. These people got beef. You sign up to be this army, and you go out there with your gun and you shooting at people that you don't know. Y'all got no personal beef. You've taken on somebody else's beef.
And guess what? Guess what?
What?
Most of us, I don't know about you, we've never talked about this, don't agree with that.
Okay.
Most of us don't want our children being sent to war. But I understand you saying it's the reality. But so has enslavement, so has police brutality, so has hunger. I'm just saying there's a lot of things. At one point, it was legal to have people enslaved. So I'm saying we understand all the things that could be, should be, it is this and that. What I understand that, my son, but you're not letting me finish my point. Okay. What I am saying is that I am vehemently against sending my son to war to fight for any country. I don't believe in
But
that.
you're not sending your war.
But I didn't say that. I didn't. No, that's not true. They had at one point drafts.
No, I hear
and
you.
if there's a war that happens right now that requires a certain amount of individuals to go fight it, they can draft
but those
again.
are the ones I'm talking about.
I know that, but I'm just trying to say that all I'm saying is that as a counterbalance to what you're stating, I'm saying you are going to suffer consequences for. I can understand if somebody did something to you directly and then that's how it ends up. But when you decide that you're going to take physical violence against a person that did not do anything to you personally, you just have to be prepared to pay the consequences. And you saying they are, so then that's that. So, and speaking of consequences, God only knows what kind of consequences you could give to a person that does this. But in Texas, we saw a woman on the news saying that her child's father called her on the phone as he choked the life out of her 2-year-old baby, and that there was blood on the baby, and she could see all of this as it was happening. And I know mental illness is real. I know it's real. So it's not, you actually understand that people are so mentally, they're struggling so much that they're just struggling so much. Like, people are struggling so much that you can, that incidents that may take place are things we will never be able to comprehend, because that's what's going on in our society. But, no, and it's just, God rest in peace to the child, the mother, and everything. But I don't know. I don't even know that you could just throw him in jail. I just don't know. I just think I don't know what you do. It's counterculture. I don't know if that's what I would call it.
Because it's based on what it's coming
category.
from. The 2 years, he took his girl's phone. They were in I think a Walmart. They got into an argument. He took her phone and took the baby. And then told her to give me the code to the phone. He wanted to find out what's going on the phone. Then while he was choking, they said, you want to be with this guy so much, you care so much for this guy, whatever it is. Like, I don't want nobody to love me that much. I don't ever want to love nobody that much.
But that's not love.
But that's what
he's sick.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. So it's also levels of coward. You've been in this world this long. You created a child. You moved on, and you were willing to take a baby's life because a woman might want another man. Like, that is some level of weakness I can't even comprehend.
Even know. I can't
comprehend. Like,
don't.
Niggas gotta get it. Come on.
I don't think
the tender dick shit is too much. No, it is. The tender dick shit is too much. You tender dick dudes. You're having sex. You mad with a woman. Don't want you no more. Or want somebody else. That's part of life. It don't at the end of the day, you can't choose. You can't tell somebody what to do with their body. You can hope they don't want to do it, but you can't. It don't get that serious.
I think that to look at it from that perspective, we're missing out on the real problem.
So what is the real problem?
Because I'm sure all of that is the scenario for how it began, but his mental illness didn't start there. There's another problem, because even then, you might kill the mother, which is wrong, but they might do that. You might do all these other things, but to choke a 2-year-old to death, there's something else going on. And I'm just trying to say that it breaks my heart so much to even hear the story and to know that Black people did this, that I need to know.
It's a coward, man.
I don't even know what could do. Then what do you do with a coward that's willing to kill a baby? I just don't know. I don't know. I think that's.
But that's what cowards will. They kill babies. They kill things that are defenseless. They prey on the weak. They prey on people and things that they know that they can overthrow. That's what cowards do. They don't want to engage you. Why you didn't find the dude? Find the dude. If you got an issue, go find the dude. He's a man. You got an issue. I don't think that makes sense. But it makes more sense than you want to impose and take the life of a baby. It's only a coward act to me. I think there should be a mental health category called weak coward.
No.
Because a lot of these
that's
dudes
not,
exhibit weak
but that's not, no. I don't know how to, and I don't know how to explain.
Out,
I don't know how to express it or to explain it because I am not a clinical psychologist and any of that. But I just think.
So you think every time that you do that is mental health? You don't think
anytime you kill a child, there's mental health.
So you don't
there's
think
very
there's just
mental
no
health.
men that are just weak and cowards?
No, not when you kill a child. Not when you could choke a baby to death.
If you just choke
that is something that is much deeper than just coward.
It came from something, right?
Yeah, it all does. Everything. Listen. Let me. Because we have to bring our guest on because we're behind.
But I just want to say one thing. Okay, I'm gonna listen to you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What I'm saying is this: if I think it's mental health when a man or somebody takes the life of a baby just randomly does some shit.
They don't do that. But that's not how it works. With mental health, what you will find is there's always a trigger. Mm-hmm. And it might be a trigger that to you doesn't make sense. It could be as simple as you keep running that water and I keep telling you to turn the water off and the water makes me, or whatever it is. It could be anything. Now when you leave me, I'm not going to have food. But you got the money. Whatever it is. I'm saying that something triggers people to do things.
Everybody's triggered by some things. What I'm trying to tell you is the coward is triggered by things, because every man or woman is triggered. Wow, my woman doesn't want me. My man doesn't want me. I'm angry. I might curse you out, this and that. But when you so much of a coward that your mind has computed that, you know what, I can't stop that. So I'm gonna do everything I can to hurt her this way. That's cowardice. That's cowardice to me. It's not mental health to me.
If we looked into the background of this man, I bet you it didn't just start there. But anyway, I was supposed to do, well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I think it's something that is worth, this particular situation, and we keep saying it, is worth engaging a clinical psychologist to discuss it, because I bet you there are other things about this man that we should know. Because I just can't. That's your answer, and most of the time life is very simple. When you make complicated, it's very simple. But this time I just feel it's gotta be. I just can't accept it. But anyway, whatever. I think we should bring our guest on. So, friends of the show, but this particular friend is more than a friend. We started, I don't know how many years ago now, when you said you got to do a podcast before people knew how to. They weren't even doing podcasts.
Nope.
They didn't.
Nobody.
They literally. There was like.
It wasn't really a thing.
It wasn't
one
a
or two
thing.
people that was doing it.
And then you were like, we should do a podcast. But next time that you kind of have an idea, I might listen to you a little bit. But we do try to listen to each other more. So that is something we learned from the podcast experience. We're trying to figure it out. We did all kinds of shows. The sound was terrible. The locations didn't have lighting. It was pretty bad. And then Jamila T. Davis and her brilliance and her convening that she always does brought us together with Cathleen Trigg-Jones, who we just call Cat. And Cat, and Cat, you saw something in us. Wanted to do the show. Wanted to make sure we did it properly. We started out with the show where all we did was argue with one another all the time. We don't agree. And you helped us to learn how to produce a show, how to do a show, and how to make it interesting, and just really helping to support our dream. And still to today, you support us so much. And I think it's just during Women's History Month, it's important for us to celebrate women who are the foundation of so much, because I know personally, and my son knows as well, about all the other things you do, things you don't get paid enough for, people you support that don't necessarily support you in the right ways. But yet you're still blessed, and I'm sure you would say that. But I know that you just, you are an incredible friend and leader, and personality, and a whole bunch of other things. And so we're just gonna start off with saying we love you before I even tell people exactly what you do.
And I love you back.
Yes, we love you.
It's a
and you fly.
And okay.
Don't
Thank you.
forget that you fly.
Well, it's just flying us all around the
Yes.
studio today,
Yes.
joining the flyest of them all.
Yes. So Kat Trigg. Why do I want to say Triggs? I be saying that all the time. We gotta fix that.
Yeah, people do it.
So Cat Trigg-Jones is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, talk show host, producer, and actress who has co-starred in more than a dozen TV shows and films, including Power, Madam Secretary, and House of Cards. So I was gonna say, in my, this was really professionally written. You be on TV. You be out here hosting major panels and discussions. You interview the best. I mean, before we had the opportunity to meet, everybody, you're like the person.
Wow, those are big shoes to fill, Tamika.
It's
true. I'm living a life of purpose. That's what I would say. And for me, and actually every single day, I feel like I'm living my childhood dream, because I was super clear when I was a kid. From 7 years old on, I was going to be an actress. I was going to live in New York. I wanted to be on TV. Probably by my teens, I said I wanted to own my own network. And who even knew that it was even possible? I had no idea it was possible, but I dreamed it. And so a lot of what I talk about now on my platform and when I work with kids and everything is the importance of allowing yourself to dream. Dream the impossible, because if you don't have a dream, it's impossible to make a dream come true.
So give us a little bit of the background. Where you from? How did you start getting into this? Like you said, since 7 years old. So what was like the process for you?
It's deep. You ready?
Yes. Come on.
So the funny thing is, we have been producing this show for how many seasons now? We've been going. This is season. Yeah, we're in our sixth. What is it, Janice?
I know the numbers is 600 and something.
Yeah, we're going into our 7th season.
Yeah.
And I've been so behind the scenes with Street Politicians.
Yes.
This is my first time coming on the show.
Yeah.
So this is a celebration.
I mean, they've seen a little glimpse of you.
They know you're here.
They know you here.
We
always
tell them all
shout
the
you out.
time.
But this is the first time.
I love it. I'm excited to support you all, and not just you, but Until Freedom.
Yeah.
And Jamila, I admire. I can't wait to tell her story in a bigger way. She deserves that platform. But my story started at a very young age. Actually, when I was born, I was left at an orphanage, and from that point on, I really don't know what my first 2 years of life entailed. But by the time I was adopted, I was almost 2, and it was my 5th home. So I can only imagine what my life would have been like had I not received, the calling from my angels that showed up and rescued me, a young black military family.
I was going to ask you, was it a black family?
It was a black military family, and they were strict. My dad was a first sergeant in the Air Force. My mother, Southern Baptist black, church-going woman with a whole lineage of preachers and deacons. So I couldn't do anything. I mean, they had me on lockdown growing up. But I grew up in Dover, Delaware. I was born in Ohio, though. And so a few years ago, I decided to go back and trace my roots, because, as you get older, there's some baggage that you've been carrying, and it's coming out in relationships that you don't even realize. I had this wall around me where I just really wouldn't let people get too close, but I wanted to help everybody. So I get very close to others, but I wouldn't let a lot of people into my personal circle. So I decided to go back and kind of figure that out. And I learned a lot. Yeah, I learned a lot about.
Did you learn about your mom and dad?
Oh yeah,
wow.
I learned a lot. So I wasn't really going on a search for my father, and I don't know why this is. That might come out in another therapy session at some point. But for some reason, when I was growing up, I only wondered who my mother was.
Yeah.
I always wondered, I must have a mom out there. And I would get depressed about it. I would always wonder, is there some woman out there who's thinking of me on my birthday? So birthdays, I kind of hated. I just, it was just a reminder that someone didn't want me. And when I went to search for my birth family, I wasn't really looking to see if I had a dad, but I definitely wanted to know who my mother was. And I unfortunately didn't get to meet her. She committed suicide. Maybe about 10 years before I went to look for her. But I met her daughters, and they're both white. My mother was white. And the interesting thing is my mother kept both of them. One's a year older than me, and one was a year younger than me. So I was the one in between. I was the only black one.
Right,
we all had different dads, but I was the only one that was black. And her family wouldn't let her keep me. And so I was put up for adoption because I was black.
Wow.
I wasn't wanted because I was black. And I was born 6 days before Martin Luther King was assassinated. So my father, who I'm going to get to, was a black man. And there were some rumors swirling around that my mother was a prostitute and that he was her pimp. So when I heard that, I was like, wow, so it's like some hustle and flow kind of stuff going on here, right? But as I dug deeper, what I realized is there was this love affair that my father and my mother had, and yeah, they were super poor, but he really loved her. And yes, she was arrested for prostitution, but it was different than what I thought. She was working for him at his club. He owned a nightclub in Ohio. Oh, I didn't tell the part. I met him, so he told me these stories. I ended up meeting him, and he told me that he really loved her and that he had a nightclub, and at night, he had a rec center during the day. So it was a little bit of a renaissance, maybe a rec center during the day. He was helping the kids after school, playing basketball, helping them with homework, and at night, upstairs, it turned into an after-hours club. A little bit of everything went on. It was like moonshine and running numbers and all this, and so they would keep coming and shutting him down. And he said they would arrest the hostesses, which my mother was, and charge them with prostitution.
Wow.
Right, and that's why she, so he was just clear. He said she wasn't standing out on the street corners, but, yeah, she was arrested, and I had to keep them out. So when I was born, he was in jail, and she was arrested for prostitution.
Wow.
So it's deep, right?
Wow.
Yeah, the things that you don't. And I learned all of this. I'm a journalist, so for me, I'm trying to dig deep and tell my own story through the stories that I've gotten from others.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah.
That's really wow. That's
But
amazing.
here's the really interesting thing. So I hired a private investigator when I went to Ohio. And again, I was just searching for my mom. And then one day I was sitting down, getting ready to leave, actually, Ohio. And I get a call from the investigator, and he says, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got some news for you." And he said, "You have a father, and he's alive, and he's not far from where you're staying right now, just a couple of miles from where you're staying, and he wants to meet you."
Wow.
And it was 6 months, almost to the day, that my father, who raised me, passed away.
Oh, God.
And encouraged me to go, find my family. And so I met him, and I did a documentary on it. So maybe one day we'll have a screening.
Please.
I took a crew with me. I'm a producer all day, every day.
Yeah.
So I took a crew with me to Ohio and filmed the whole exchange. But I met him in a diner. He's a black man. His name is Oscar. But he told me everyone calls him Butch. I couldn't make up the
You couldn't
story.
make this up.
His name is Butch. And so this is the kicker, and then we're going to move on from this. But I could talk about it all day because it's really a fascinating story. I was asking him questions like I'm thinking, I've never in my life met a birth parent. I don't know who would look like. I grew up wondering who could I look like. And I'm finally sitting across from this black man, and I'm like staring him down, like, looking at his eyes, looking at his nose, just staring at him like I had never seen a human being before. And I wanted to touch him because I just want, it's like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
But he put his hand on the table, and so I tried to find a way to like touch his hand without it being corny. So I remember, he said something funny, and I laughed and was like, putting my hand on his hand, like and it gave me chills, like, wow, this is my dad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting emotional now. But, and his eyes look like mine. I said, "Have your eyes always been like gray like that?" And he's like, "Yeah, when I was about maybe like 40 or so, they started turning." He said, you have the same eyes." I was like, "Exactly." And then his personality is a lot like mine. And then I said, here's the best part. I said, "So do you have any other children?" He was like, "I sure do." I said, "So I have some siblings. Like, how many?" He was like, let's see. I said, "Too many to count?" He was like, "Well, including you, I guess about 23.
Oh, Lord.
23 kids.
Only thing I could say was Papa was a rolling stone, and that just completely
He was a boulder.
He was putting it in. Yeah, so it was.
Have you met some of those siblings?
I did. I went back. One of his daughters actually came to the diner and met me.
Wow.
She looked. Janice can tell you. She's our producer in the studio. She looked like a bird. She looked like me, but 20 years younger.
Wow.
She's 20 years younger than me. So she's the baby.
Yeah.
We looked so much alike that it was crazy. I took some pictures. And then I threw a family reunion. I went back to Ohio with my family. And I threw a family reunion.
I mean, it's almost hard to go on to
Yeah,
anything
like, how do
else
we even
because
pass
this
this?
story
I'm
is so powerful.
But-
Let me just ask this last question, and then we have to transition. But
Sure.
it's almost like part 2.
Yeah,
It's necessary. Wow.
Yeah,
Just
that's
wow,
amazing.
Kat. Wow. So are you still in touch with your family?
I am.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I am.
Thank
I went
God.
back. I threw a family reunion because I really I figured it was the easiest way for me to meet them was to bring everyone to me. So I
Yeah.
got a park, got DJ, got big cake, and basically threw a family reunion.
So now they're
And
like,
everyone
Cat's
came.
our rich sister.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing. So here's the really deep part about all of this is I grew up feeling like something was wrong with me, right? Like I was the one that wasn't wanted. And when I went back, I'm not saying that I'm the most successful of the family, but if you're looking at career, at successes career-wise, education, and just the things I've accomplished in my life, I've done okay.
Yeah.
And most of them are still there in Ohio. They've had a rough life. There's two sides. There's my white side and my black side. So the white sisters grew up really, really poor. Their mom was riddled with mental health issues and really struggled. And on my dad's side, they all love Butch. Everyone loves Butch. He's got about 12 different women, that have birthed all these kids. Some are white, some are black. The ones that are half white look almost exactly like me. The ones that are black look like they're my aunts that I grew up with, because I grew up with my two black parents. But now I have an extended family that loves me and calls me, and they don't think, they're not leaning on me for anything except love. They call me and they tell me, hey, Kathleen, Butch wants to speak with you. Hold on a second.
So he's still alive?
He's alive. He's 87.
This is crazy.
Yeah, and we talk quite often. Yeah, I've actually established a relationship with him. I keep my distance a little, it's not like I'm playing spades with them every night, but they do. They literally, this is a funny thing also, I have so much in common with them. They play spades, they're like having, parties, and I live on the water, and Butch loves to fish all the time, so he's like, every time I talk to him, he's fishing. So it's just a little surreal, right?
Wow.
And it helped me. It closed, for me, some of the questions I had, and it made me realize that the things that I grew up thinking were so different about me, being not sure if I'm clearly a black woman, and I've grown up black, went to HBCU, pledged Delta, so I'm black all the way. But I struggled as a kid to fit in. Wasn't black enough for my black friends, wasn't white enough for the white people. And so I really struggled with my identity growing up. And I think this just brought it all full circle for me.
I tell you, it's so much to say, because
I don't even know what the next question is.
If we didn't have to go, if we didn't have to move along, I would talk about how that makes you empathize with Kamala Harris, right, with the vice president, and her situation of growing up with all of these identities, and then having people say she's not black.
Yeah. And
that's a but we don't have time today. But you said one of the things you talked about your childhood, what you dreamed about, what you didn't understand, what you said you were going to start a network. And here you are with iWomanTV.
Yep.
Where you're using your platform for so many others, including the Street Politicians podcast. Why did you start iWomanTV? And why are you so crazy? Because they say we're crazy whenever we create things that everybody tells us we can't do.
Yeah. The thing about a woman is you tell her she can't do something and she will, and I think with me, I feed off of people telling me what I can't do. I was told I would never go to college. I graduated college. I went on to become an Emmy Award-winning journalist. I was told I'd never make it to the #1 TV market as a news anchor. I made it to New York, won an Emmy, did everything I ever dreamed of, I've done. But again, it all started with a dream. And so for me, I wanted to have my own network, because when I used to be a news anchor in New York, I would sit next to usually a white male co-anchor as, who could pretty much do anything. And I, on the other hand, had to work a lot harder to prove myself and make a quarter of the money typically that the men around me were making. And I always used to think, if I could start my own, what would it be? And so I would fantasize about having my own production company. And I called my first production company Catscape Productions, because my nickname's Cat. It was my escape, Cat's escape from working for the man. That's really how it all started for me. And I said, I can give people like Tamika D, Mallory and Mysonne the General and Kamala and everyone that I love and I know that deserves a platform that wasn't getting a platform back then. If I own my own, they don't have to try to continue to push their way through a door that isn't open for them.
Right.
Those doors at the Bravos and the Wees, at NBCs, ABCs, they weren't open to us. They're still barely open. They're opening, but not because they necessarily wanted to. Their hand was forced, if we're being honest. And so even before we had George Floyd and before Black Lives Mattered, I cared about our people and how I could use my talents and my resources to create a lane, to create content that is more genuine, that portrays us in the way that I know us to be, especially women and Black women. And that was the birth of iWomanTV.
So being a Black, strong woman, career orientated, just having a vision, what has been some of the obstacles?
It's hard. You know, being an entrepreneur is very different from collecting a huge paycheck being a news anchor, right? So just because you're great in one profession doesn't necessarily mean that you can just decide you're going to hang a plaque and you're just a great business person. There's so much I had to learn. I had never run a payroll before. I didn't know anything about managing employees. I didn't know anything about really what it takes to build a network. I just knew I had the desire and I had a vision. And I had a clear message from God, build it and they will come. And I just kept hearing that, build it and they will come for such a time as this. And so when COVID happened, I realized that was that time. And if we build the network and I do what I said I'm going to do, stay true to what my vision is, which is to create a lane, a distribution platform for amazing stories to be told, then those stories will bring the audience. Street politicians, Tamika, my son, you're bringing your following, and all I'm doing is helping you tell your stories. And so at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller, and I'm a producer, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm all these things, but I'm also a humanitarian. I'm also someone who really wants to make the world a better place, who really wants to tell the stories that are going to move us forward and stop perpetuating the lies that have held us back for so long.
Well, it's unfortunate that we can't talk more. We have to do this again.
Definitely.
And like right away.
We got to do the documentary. We got to sit down, do a screening of the documentary.
Let's do it. You guys can host it.
Yeah, that'd be
We
dope.
have to do it.
For real, I want to do that.
Because I don't know why I don't know this stuff that you just
this
said.
is
Like all
amazing.
this story that you just told. I heard that you were adopted. I knew that. But I did not understand the depth. And that's just you. You're you come, you speak, you go.
And then she says, oh, by the
And
way.
let me just tell you,
By the
you
way,
know,
yeah.
tomorrow I'm receiving the so-and-so award
You like
medal somewhere. It's like,
Well,
okay.
you'll be right there introducing me when the Grammy and the Oscar
And
comes.
it's
So let's
coming.
make that
It's
happen.
coming.
That's coming.
So, you know, you said you're a humanitarian, you said a lot of things, but you didn't also say you're a philanthropist, and I hope that you will own that and begin to use it when you're describing yourself, because you are a philanthropist. You give in so many different ways.
Yes, you do.
And again, I think that, you know, it's important not just to give you flowers, but to flowers that include real words that describe who Cat Trigg is so much to you. We didn't even get a chance to talk about your husband and the businesses that you've all built together. He has a plastic surgery business, Lexington Plastic Surgery. And you guys have been on TV together. What is it, Mr.
We Are the Joneses.
We Are the
which I
Joneses,
produced.
right, which you
Exactly.
produced. And people, when I tell people that, they're like, oh yeah, I know that show, you know.
Yeah.
But you have so much, your children, so much happening. And so this interview does not do justice to this incredible woman. We have to have you back, Cat Trigg.
We will. So 2 things before I go. One, I do want to plug iWomanTV. I want to make sure everyone signs up. You can find Street Politicians on there. Every week we put out a new episode. The iWoman Report, which I host, is a show that interviews amazing women, tells the stories of powerful women. And it's iWomanTV.com. I mean, iWoman.tv, I'm sorry. iWoman.tv. Exactly, so support that, and I'm showing some love. Like if you have a show or something you want to produce, we're wide open. We're looking for content. We're expanding.
We're looking for sponsors.
Join the team.
Absolutely.
Join the team.
We're looking
Join
for
the
sponsors.
Always looking
We
for
just
money.
launched in Europe. We're about to launch in Africa. We're in 1 million homes in Europe. We're throughout the United States now, so we're expanding our distribution. But we need partners, and we need a little help from some friends.
Yeah.
So support us.
Yeah.
And
It's called We Need Money.
We need money.
Money.
So I say
Let's get-
support,
make
you
it
say
clear,
money. When I say
simplify.
support, you say money.
Money.
Support.
Money.
Money.
Absolutely. The last thing I wanted to say, if I could real quick,
Please.
on the philanthropy front, So because of my background, the work I do primarily is helping young women aging out of foster care. I really care about young people
That's
who...
at Trigg's house?
Trigghouse.org. Trigghouse.org, you can learn more. But my goal is to make sure that no child who has gone or remained in the foster care system goes without feeling loved and goes without having a place to call home. So what I'm doing is building these trig houses around the country to house young people that maybe didn't have the opportunity I did to get adopted. And I can't adopt everyone because I probably would if I could, but I wanted to at least create a house where we can bridge the gap, because we won't even talk about young men. That's a different conversation because they end up in jail, sadly. Many of them, not all of them. But young women end up within 1 year of aging out of the system, within 1 year, 75% of them are pregnant. Many of them end up, engaging in survival sex. They find some guy who will take care of them, and then it becomes abusive. They end up trafficked or on drugs. They end up in jail or dead. And so and not all of them again,
You
but
said
the
75%.
statistics are not very good. And so my hope is to be able to use my story, my experience, my successes to show them just a little love and see if we can get them safely into adulthood, where they have a career, they have job skills, they have housing, they have love.
And can people give money to Trigg House?
Trigghouse.org. You can donate all day, every day. Trigghouse.org.
We should do a
Absolutely.
show on foster kids.
Let's do that.
Let's
Yeah.
do
They need
that.
us.
You
They
should
need
co-host
us.
with us.
Anytime.
That'd be
Yes.
great. Thank you so much, Kat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. We love you.
You
Keep
love
it
me
up.
more.
Cathleen
Keep being
Trigg-Jones.
iWomanTV.
iWoman.TV.
Money. Shout out to Cathleen Trigg-Jones, our producer, our sister. We love her to death. Her story is amazing. Like, wow.
It was like knocked me off
Like,
my
now I'm
feet.
sitting here, like, you should, I know they're going to see my mouth is just wide open. I'm just like,
Cat.
and this shows.
But she has so much grace.
That's what I'm
the
trying
way that
to
she
say.
tells her story, her voice.
Like, the reality of the situation is the chosen ones just have a way to get through life.
They've been through a lot, and
Like,
that's
you've
why
been
I
through-
mean,
like, when
I
look
wanted.
at everybody's story who's done things. It's like, wow, you overcame, like, and you still persevered. So.
I mean, I can't do my thought of the day today because we have come to the end of our time. But, I'm going to talk about that. Like, perseverance and, not making excuses for everything. There's some stuff that we have excuses for,
But I
I
don't think
swear.
I just
But
think
some things...
the word excuse is used very lightly, right? Because me explaining to you why something happened. And
Yeah,
me
but
making
we're
an
talking
excuse
about
for
people
it,
who don't wash their ass. That's my thing I want to talk
Lord,
about.
people,
And I know it's totally different topics, and I would
Totally
have to
different.
really explain it. But there's some people who have issues. They do. They have all kinds of issues. Medical issues, mental health issues, all types of issues. But there's some people that's just nasty. And so I can't talk about it today because, the people, but I don't care. They try to say, I'm not humble, I'm bougie, I'm this. They can say whatever they want. Being clean is close to God.
I mean,
So
people should
that's
watch
that.
that. Yeah.
So anyway, we can move on from that.
But okay, so that brings me to my I don't get it. Because this is the most unhygienic. This is some sick shit. So
I don't know if unhygienic
this
is the word, but I get your point.
Some sick shit. So, young man sent me a video.
Of some dirty stuff?
Of him being searched by the police.
The person sent you a video.
The person who he sent me his video. He's like, yo, he needs help. And I think it happened in 2021. I got a timestamp on the video, so we'll probably show it. But this young man is on his stomach, and you can see the officer literally with his glove on his hand digging inside the man's butt. Like digging, and the man's like, stop, yo, I don't have nothing. Yo, you digging in my butt, yo. Like literally, he's like, you could see him like, and it's like in the street. Like literally in the street, you get pulled over, you got handcuffs, they pull you in the stomach, and they literally digging inside the rectum. And probably sometime this year, I seen that they were talking about officers in Milwaukee. Like,
right, Roland Martin was
Roland
talking
Martin was
about
talking
that.
about how
Yeah.
they're investigating. The guys had the same thing. One dude was like, you know, they just pulled my pants down and whipped my rectum.
But okay, it's you moving too fast. The people can't understand.
What can't you understand?
Was he pulled over for like drugs or something?
I don't care what he was pulled over.
No, but I mean, did they think that he like put it in
more
his,
than likely you
that's
think
what
he
they
has
gonna
something.
say.
That's what they're gonna say.
No matter what.
But I'm just talking about that has to be a civil rights violation. That you immediately pulled over. You think I got drugs in my car or whatever, or you might think there has to be a process that you go about, you know, before you just pull me over in the street and you put handcuffs
I just don't think
and dig
that's
inside
okay.
somebody's rectum like that.
That's crazy.
That is a total violation of a man's or woman's personal space. Like it has to be a crime.
Yeah.
I just don't get. I don't get how an officer is even okay even doing that. There's no way that I'm pulling over some man in the middle of the street. I don't even know if he washed his ass. I don't know if he just finished shitting. I don't know what's going on. But I'm gonna put my hand, even with a glove or anything, and dig in this man's ass. Like,
well, I mean,
it's
crazy. It's definitely crazy that happened.
No way.
But the thing is, it happens a lot. Like you said, it was Roland Martin who was informing us about how in Milwaukee there were 8 officers under investigation from claims of sexual assault during stops. Mm-hmm. And, you know, first of all, to hear that
this
it's happening.
This was in Jersey. The young man I was speaking about, this happened in
Jersey. And so to hear that it's happening to men it's, I don't know, what's the word? Repulsive. Repulsive. It's disgusting. It's a violation of everything, your human rights, dignity, everything. It's terrible. But I just want to make it clear, this has been happening to women forever, right? So for instance, in Kansas City, Kansas, we just were there in the dead of the freezing winter, the beginning of the winter. We were in Kansas City, Kansas, because the officer everybody knew about it. The whole city knew that this guy was sexually assaulting women on stops. And that's a normal thing. Women get fondled, fingered, and sexually assaulted by officers on the street and inside, especially inside. I have a friend who told me a story, and you know this friend, who was incarcerated, and she told me a story about how they couldn't get they were isolated in the jail for whatever reason, and I won't say why because then that gives away the story, but they were isolated in the jail, and in order for them to be fed, they had to suck on the officer's penis through a hole.
That's crazy.
Had to do it in order for him
Ain't
to
nobody
put the
bite
food.
it off?
Why would you do that?
Get him out of here.
But it's no way that works for you.
Because you want the food.
Well, first of all, you want the food. Second of all, you don't want worse harassment and abuse.
That's crazy.
And so in order to get fed, they had to perform fellatio on the officer every time he was on a shift. To the point where at times they decided they would just not eat during that meal. And eventually other officers knew what was going on and they stopped it.
That is unbelievable.
So I'm just saying, and by the way, I think the point, because I want to make sure people don't hear this, and because we sometimes we hear things people ain't saying, that, oh, she's trying to make it seem like it's not that serious, or this other thing isn't that bad to the men because of the women. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying what we should know, right? While there are some people in our society, men and others, that don't see the abuse, the sexual abuse issue as being that important, because people see women as sexual objects anyway. And so when you say I was raped or touched or whatever, folks are like, okay, whatever. Hopefully now, with you bringing this to the forefront, and when we know already what happened with Milwaukee this year, hopefully that will help folks to now be like, wow, this is a widespread problem. Everywhere you turn,
it's some bullshit.
The policing issue, it's like, bruh.
The police is some bullshit.
You know what? I have to say this one story, and then I swear we can go. Not I swear, but we can go. So, traveled back in town last night. I'm with my son. We land in LaGuardia Airport. It's 10:30 at night. Uber man doesn't, the Uber driver, is a mess. It's all kinds of issues. So for 20 minutes, we are waiting for Uber at baggage claim. Out of nowhere, a woman just starts screaming, "Fuck that! Do it whatever you want to me. I dare you to run up on me." And she's going crazy. I look and she's right, like I'm here and she's right there. There's a wall separating us so I can see her sitting on the benches over here with other people that she is not with. So these individuals, you can tell, are frozen because they don't, you don't move fast while you're dealing with a situation like that because you don't know what the person is going to do. You kind of got to figure out when is the right time. These people must have been from the hood because, in the hood, a person start bugging, you gotta ease. You can't be doing because then they just, you can't do that. So they're sitting there very uncomfortable. She is screaming, spitting everywhere, having a complete meltdown about something. Now, a guy does get up and walk away from her, and he starts going like this, and they look like they might have been together. So he might have did something to her, and she really wasn't as off the chain as I think, but whatever. So he goes and she's screaming. Now she's standing in the middle of the floor, and in LaGuardia, it's all new and fancy. So you got all this fancy people around and all these red coat Delta workers and everything, and they all standing around watching her, and she is screaming and hollering. And guess what? Not one cop. She could have stabbed people. They could have been a fight. Not one officer. You know where the officers were? Because I started looking to see what we got to do. I don't know. And now she's getting up. She's moving around. So I'm like, all right, which way do I have to deal with her or get out her way? So when I look to see where are the authorities, because the authorities are supposed to be the ones. We are in the airport, okay? So in the airport, we assume anything that happens, somebody's gonna come. Mm-hmm. Because I need to know if I gotta fight her or if there's gonna be somebody else to come and say, "Ma'am, you have to calm down," escort her out. And by the way, as you know, I'm gonna watch and monitor her being escorted kindly out the door, right? Because I'm thinking all of this. You know where the cops were? Out there with their sirens on, driving back and forth, forcing cars where people trying to get their shit, they suitcases and stuff. They out there moving traffic outside the window, just going, and it's a whole thing happening right here that could potentially, if this woman pulled out a knife and started stabbing everybody.
But that's when they come. See, they don't. I keep telling people the police don't prevent crime in the community. I don't know. I've never seen it. Only thing I've seen the police come to do is arrest people that already committed the crime. We don't need that. We need y'all to de-escalate, to intervene, to stop the crimes, to deter people from just you coming to arrest people.
I think they're a little bit of a deterrent.
I would
argue that.
Sometimes
it's a deterrent. But the prevention and the intervention and all of that.
You see her yelling. Please. You're supposed to stop her while she's yelling so she don't start stabbing. But
then I was like, okay, Tamika Mallory, you got to check yourself, because if they would have came in there, they could have shot her, and we don't want that.
But that's the problem.
So then I said, well, they would have to have because she was saying no, because homegirl was saying run up on me and you gonna find out. Yeah. She was saying fuck around and find out. So I don't know so if she would have just did the wrong thing, I don't know. So I was like, okay, well, we don't want to get shot. Like I was waiting for my Uber driver that long, which is a whole different conversation. That I'm processing that if they come in here, they could shoot her. So then I said, well, that's why they gotta have mental health people with them.
Exactly.
But how they gonna what's the process of having them at the airport? Because the airport need them.
Exactly. The same way they need police. This is what I'm trying to tell you. In every community where mental health is prevalent and present, you don't just need police officers.
Every community has police.
Exactly. The same inside the police station, there should be a place with mental health people that do this. There should be violence. Like there should be stations in communities for different things. Everybody dispatched should not be the police. Because they don't know how to deal with it.
But the police have to come. So I mean,
because that's the process.
I believe it, right? Because I was about to say, I believe there can be a different structure. I'm just going with what we currently have and how it can be enhanced until we can abolish it completely and create something totally
Yeah,
new.
but it's a process.
So, I'm just saying I want to put that on the record so people don't think I'm sitting up here acting as if it's okay for the police to have to intervene in every situation in our community. I don't want that. But this is the airport. So I'm not talking about on 125th Street in Harlem. I'm talking about the airport. At the airport, you should not be able...
But I think airport police officers should have a different level of training and skill set.
Well, they should have somebody with them. Because they're not going... There's too much pressure to put on one person.
What I'm trying to explain to you is not, right? Because if you a doctor, right, and you're a physician, you don't just know how to take care of cold, right? You know how to deal with the flu, you know how to do this, you know how to do temperatures. Like, there should be certain shit, there should be a skill set that you have. Like, I'm a professional, I know how to do this, and I also know how to de-escalate, and I also know how to do these things.
Well, they are trained to do that.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. Inside the airport, you have to be multi-faceted. We don't just need a regular police officer because it's
a lot of different kinds of people.
There's a lot of different, exactly. So you got to be able to interact. You got to be able to see, like the training that the special service forces and their training is different. They're able to do all type of shit. They know how to mentally deal with you. They know how to physically deal with you. They know how to see certain shit. They know how to be aware of certain things. It's a level of training that you got to be there. So when you inside that airport, you got to have all of those things.
Yeah, because every kind of person is in the airport. All types of issues. You see people flipping out on the plane from anxiety. It's all kinds of things, and I get it. But I'm saying that in this situation, nobody came. In fact, the man who was like supposed to be security, like, you know, he just walks up and down. If he sees something, I guess see something, say something type of dude. He was standing there. He was about half my size, standing there with his neon vest on.
Yeah, he don't do nothing. That's not his job.
Standing there, just looking. Wasn't doing anything. The Delta workers that handle baggage claim, which is evidently at LaGuardia, that's now a fancy thing. It looks like a club over there. They were standing in the glass. They're not coming out there to deal with this woman. One guy did come out and walk around kind of to assess. There was another neon green shirt person, vest, down there, standing there doing nothing. And this lady is walking around getting busy. Like it was about to be, potentially. Nobody did nothing. So when you ask about the police, I don't be understanding it. What I know is that, and I know I'm dragging this, but the people that's trying to get their bags in the car, yes, they need to be moved along. It helps us all. Because there's so much traffic, you can't get there, whatever. But what I am trying to figure out is why, as this is the airport. I'm not talking about the community. I'm talking about a place that somebody could have been in there and blew up the damn place. And they could have blown up the airport. Where are the people? They're supposed to be like people. Like, right? Like the officers. Like what are they called?
I don't know what
it's
airport security, TSA, right?
No, not the TSA. It's supposed to. I'm talking about the next level.
But that's what it should be.
The police.
All of those people that's
These
in
is
there
bigger police than the regular police.
They should be skilled. Should be federal.
They wasn't there.
They supposed to be there, and they not. But they was somewhere digging in the man's ass.
Oh my God! Shut up, Mike. Good night. That's the end of this show.
It's the truth.
No, that's wrong.
Stay out of people's ass, man. It ain't nothing in no man's ass.
Nah, but that's sexual assault.
It is sexual assault.
And we make it light of it, but it's not funny.
Listen, I spoke to the dude, and we gonna talk to see who we need to talk to, because this is not right, man.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, man, shout out to Cathleen Trigg-Jones and her amazing story and just who she is, what she represents. iWomanTV, you know, for 6 years of just
6 years of being with us.
Being with us, man. And
carrying
like she said, there's opportunities here. Reach out, man.
Yeah.
She wants to make sure if you got a real story, if you got something that's really dope, this is definitely a good home for it, man.
Absolutely.
So
and also just make sure we mention that when we bought the Black Effect Podcast Network partnership to her, she was like, I can work it, help with the contracts and all the things. So She's an all around Renaissance woman, like she said. Her
Woman,
dad is a
woman.
Renaissance
This is
man.
Women's Month. We making sure that we celebrate the proper type of woman on Women's Month.
Ain't no with proper type.
Oh, it is.
All women need to be celebrated.
Well, listen.
You could be on a stripper pole at night.
Oh, I'm not saying.
You could
Listen,
be.
I ain't got nothing
You
wrong
could
with
be.
no stripper.
You could be on the streets
never
without
said
housing. You could be in prison right now with a federal conviction.
Well,
you
gotta
could
do
be.
something to celebrate. We can't just celebrate.
Yes, we can. We celebrate them all.
So we celebrate.
We celebrate them all.
So we celebrate. And with that said, I'm not gonna always be right. Tamika, I don't even know, but Tamika's not gonna always be wrong. She might be wrong, but not always. But we'll both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Peace.
So.
Listen to Street Politicians on the Black Effect Network on iHeartRadio.
And catch us every single Wednesday for the video version of Street Politicians on iWoman.tv.